And this is the Main Street Bridge Advisory Committee, Thursday, October 7th at 6 p.m. Everybody sees my screen?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're going to do a welcome and a roll call. Welcome everyone to the meeting, and I'm going to do the roll call. Okay. Katie Martin.
Here.
Present. Charles Nelson.
Present.
Steve Hyman. Steve.
Here.
Jerry Steinberg. Jerry.
Here.
Okay. And Ruth Brown.
Here.
Okay. So not here. Rick Hernandez, David Crescent, Guy Rabat, and Jennifer Siegels. And also from the city, Ray Razavi, Sherry Saisi, Doug Garrison, and our consultant, Anthony Richardson. Anybody else that I'm not seeing and is present besides Jordan here is reporting? Okay.
Yep.
So that was welcome and roll call. Second item, election of chair and vice chair.
Yep, we have
So
a quorum.
We have a quorum. So we need to have a nomination of first the chair for the committee.
I'd like to nominate David Crescent.
David's not here though, right?
That's his punishment.
Can we elect in absence?
Acceptance.
Sherry, can we elect?
That's a good question. I think he should be able to accept.
Okay.
Or reject.
Oh, Richard. Okay.
Yeah,
Then
we can
Anybody that is present and would like to be nominated? Charles, do you want to nominate yourself or
No, Matt,
Katie, Ruth,
that's the
Jerry?
point.
That's the point.
How about Katie? Would you like to nominate or volunteer? Ruth?
I'll nominate Ruth.
Oh, no, I don't.
I'm not familiar with anybody other than Jerry and Ruth since our last meeting, and you, Ray.
Okay. What do you think, Jerry?
No, I got a pass to this time.
Okay.
All right, I'll volunteer to do it.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Anybody
I'll
wants to
second
second
that.
that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes.
Congratulations, Katie.
Thank you.
You are now the chair.
Now I'll vote. I'll recommend Ruth to be the vice president.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, okay.
Excellent choice.
I'll
What does
second
one
that.
have to do? What does the vice chair do?
The responsibilities of chair and vice chair. Those are two good questions. You basically run the meeting, and in absence of the chair, Ruth will run the meeting. Otherwise, Katie would be running the meeting.
Right.
Okay.
We will do all the work in terms of, putting the agenda together, but you would approve and run the meeting and take the lead in any kind of discussions and agree for our agenda to go forward and introduce the items on the agenda. We will prepare the meeting notes. We will do all the legwork that you need to. You will just let us know if you agree to proceed with any item.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll hand it over to Katie as the
Oh,
chair of the
I'm
group.
gonna do it.
Congratulations.
Okay. Item C, acknowledgement of meeting notes. Do you have a copy of them? I have not seen them.
The meeting
Excuse me,
notes,
I don't think we voted for the vice president and vice chair. I seconded the
Oh,
motion.
you're
but I
right.
think We need to call the vote.
all in favor of Ruth Brown being the vice chair?
Aye.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Ruth Brown, you are hereby the vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Katie, may I speak regarding the meeting notes?
Please do.
Okay, so I have that on my screen, and the meeting note that we sent to everyone is what is shown on the screen here. My apologies, everything in the meeting notes is per our last meeting. The only mistake that I made is the typo, it was Thursday, July 23rd instead of June 23rd on the title. But everything else is per the last meeting. What we had talked about was the project status, which we're going to cover again. The committee had asked us certain things that I have highlighted here. First one is the visual simulation, to bring in back some features that we're going to discuss today. Requested the detour plan that we're going to discuss. That was the second item. And the addition of bots. Those are the round things for the crosswalk that we're going to discuss as well. And so we will discuss that later on in the meeting. And if you all agree, then we can get it approved and proceed.
I move that we acknowledge the meeting notes of July 23rd, 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
second.
Can I second?
Ruth seconds. All right. None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Meeting
Aye.
notes approved. We'll change the date to July instead of June and redistribute. Thank you.
Okay. Item 4 is public comments. Because this is a public meeting, I'm assuming that the Brown Act, I know that the Brown Act prevails. I don't know if anybody is monitoring the public at the moment.
I don't see any member of the public through the chair.
Okay, there does not appear to be anybody online. Otherwise, we would see a phone number or something of that nature. As such, I will close the public comment period. Item number E, informational and discussion items. I'm assuming that you, Ray, are going to, and PCT are going to talk about the project status, the visual simulations, and the project costs and schedules. Let's start with the project status.
Thank you, Katie. Can I, through the chair, may I just look real quick? I'm getting a information that someone may be attempting to join in. It could be another member or it could be a public. So if you don't mind, if I just
No, go ahead.
okay, thank you. Okay. Sherry, are you there? Oh, Maz is here. Maz, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Public Works.
Hi, folks. I am here. I'm just
Okay.
I'm in transit, so I'll be on with video in a couple minutes. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And
I see a hand up from Public Works.
Oh, that was me trying to tell Ray that there may be someone coming in. Okay, so I'm going to lower my hand.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Take it away, Ray.
okay. Thank you, Katie. So we'll start the project background. We have a little presentation on PowerPoint prepared to take you through the process of all the work we've been doing. Anthony Richardson, myself, Doug Garrison, and Maz Bozorginia, along with Sherry, have been trying to move the project forward. And we taught a little background and also bring you up to date on the latest developments that we would like to discuss with you and also get your opinion and direction on how we're going to move forward. What you see here is some of the old pictures of the bridge. I'm sure you have seen some of them, but I thought it would be interesting just to reacquaint ourselves, you know, how the bridge went through the past 100 years. We got some from the very beginning when it was dirt road, and also some later on when it's actually has a different view with the sidewalk, etc. Originally, there were no sidewalks on the east side or the west side. And as you see in the 1942, the sidewalks were added in. First one side and then the other side were added in with a 5 to 6 foot sidewalk that we are trying to also retrofit at this point. So on the status of the design, we first started with a topographic survey that was completed. We surveyed the channel. As you know, the channel is the jurisdiction of several agencies, and we have to get the permission in order to be in the channel. And that kind of resulted in us to have to wait until we get the permission to go in and do our biological studies. During the construction, we also are limited. We are limited in the time of year that we could be in the channel. So we will be looking at a certain time of the year that our permits would require us to go on the channel and do the work. We have to do some work in the foundation area as well as the sides of the channel for making sure that the erosion control is not going to be a problem in the future. The geotechnical investigation was completed. We know what the dirt is underneath the bridge. We know how deep we have to go with a new foundation. AT&T vault relocation, we relocated. There was an AT&T vault on top of the bridge on the north side. I don't know if you know where the coffee company is on the north side of the bridge. Right as the sidewalk ended, there was an AT&T vault right in the middle of the sidewalk. We worked with AT&T, as you know, working with these agencies. It took us about a year, and they finally relocated it at their cost. So that area is now free. They put it back on the sidewalk towards the coffee company. So now we have that whole area available to us to connect to the future park that goes down towards the bottom next to the river. That area would be redesigned, and we are coordinating with the parks people to make sure that that access is going to be kind of conducive to people going down and connecting with the bridge down to the park. Preliminary design, we did the seismic analysis, we did the structural design. Anthony Richardson from Briggs Cardozo Associate have been working hard with the designers to make sure that we get a design that's attractive and also workable. It doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. So we want to make sure that we keep the whole aspect of the bridge that is representative of the 100-year life of the bridge, that the look of the bridge is kept and enhanced, but the structural integrity of the bridge would not put any additional load and impact on the arch itself, which is a historic monument. Want to make sure that two of them work together, but also provide us a one complete design. Realigning the sidewalk, aligning the roadway, coordination with the new park entrance, new sidewalks, and the bridge barriers. The bridge barriers, if you recall from the last meeting, has been a really difficult item for us because the existing barriers, the look of it, we wanted to preserve, but we're required by the federal and state law to upgrade it to this MASH standard, which is a much more complex thing that a big truck should be able to hit it and nothing should be damaged. So, which is much more complex than the barrier we have now, but we wanted to have the look of the old design. Preliminary hydrology and hydraulic analysis have been completed, and the scour mitigation that's right inside, underneath the bridge side of the river. We want to make sure that the scour does not jeopardize the future bridge. So we did do the evaluation of that. And we created the visual simulation. You have seen some of them last time, and we will go over that again and show you exactly what it looks like to kind of refresh everyone's memory. What's in progress right now, there's a type selection report. It's a bridge type selection report that we have to go through. It's a kind of a complex process that Caltrans has to make sure that the preferred alternative has been evaluated along with the other alternatives, and this is the best way to go forward with. And normally you look at different options of how to redesign this bridge and rehab it. So we have to make sure that Caltrans buys up on it. And those has been submitted to Caltrans for their review. So the next is the status of the environmental compliance. This is kind of a complex list of all the environmental reports that we have to prepare and submit to Caltrans for their review. And I'll let Anthony go through this list since he was kind enough to prepare this and update this for us. So we kind of get a basic understanding of where we're at. Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Yeah, so because the project is federally funded, we do have to follow this set procedure that Caltrans has for developing projects. And generally the procedure is that we complete what they call the preliminary design phase. So the 35% design plan and type selection. And as that's being reviewed, we can start to submit some of the environmental documents to Caltrans for their review. And then once Caltrans have reviewed these documents and approved them, then we can proceed with the final design stage. And so if I look down through this list, there's I've grouped them together. So the cultural reports, and these are mainly historic resources and archaeological resources. Some of these reports some of these studies were actually done back in, say, 2014, I think, when there was a previous bridge replacement project. And so some of those, we've been able to reuse those studies and update them. And so the status on those, there's, I guess, 4 of them that we can complete before the type selection is submitted. And those are generally the sort of surveys of the existing conditions. That's the first 4 of them, the HRER, ASR, APE, and the XP1 proposal. And those are either approved by Caltrans or they're with Caltrans right now. Once we get those approved, we can then move forward with the next stage of those cultural reports. And so one of those, the XP1 investigation, that's related to archaeological resources. So the XP1 proposal has been submitted. That's a plan of areas that would be excavated to complete a survey of potential archaeological resources.
And Anthony, the reason for that is because we had found out about possible Native American remains in that area.
That's right, and so this is a study that would have to be done on all projects. In this case, when the Stone Pine Center was developed, there were some archaeological resources found as part of that project, and so we actually have the same archaeological staff working on this project, and so they've got that knowledge of that site that they're using for our project as well. So the other cultural studies, there's the finding of effect, and that's really a summary of, is the project, does it have a significant impact on the historic resource or a non-significant effect? And so we've gone through the study of that, and we have a draft of that report showing no significant effects, and we're ready to submit that to Caltrans as they go through their type selection review. Once all those have been approved by Caltrans, we then produce like a summary of all of the cultural reports. That's a historic property survey report. And there is a potential that we may have to do a Section 4F concurrence letter. That is, so that's based on the public resource of the parks, and we don't believe we'll have to complete that, but we have to wait for Caltrans to finish their reviews to confirm that. On the biology side, so we've completed the initial survey of the biological resources and the potential for special status species. So those are species that are on either the state or the federal lists of endangered species. And so all of that initial survey and analysis has been done, and that report, Doug has reviewed it. It's now ready to go to Caltrans as soon as they get to that point on their review. Once Caltrans have gone through that, we may have to do a further level of study, the biological assessment, and we may not. We just have to see what Caltrans determine coming through that review. There are three fairly straightforward water resource studies, and these are either relating to changes in potential flood conditions, and the water quality assessment is related to both temporary and long-term changes or potential changes that could affect water quality. That's mainly due to silts and soil materials getting washed into the creek. So we finished those, and again, they've been reviewed internally, ready to submit to Caltrans when they're ready. The next five are fairly straightforward. They're related to conditions during construction, or some of them are long-term conditions. So traffic handling is related to temporary traffic conditions. Hazardous materials is just a survey of the existing materials, and if any of them are either asbestos or lead paint, that sort of material. Traffic handling twice. I see quality conformance is that in this case, it's a matter of just registering the project through a state database. We're not affecting, making any changes to sort of long-term traffic through this project, and so it's purely registration for this one. And then visual resources, that's a fairly straightforward summary of how the changes in visual conditions of the project. That's actually studied a lot more in some of the historic reports, and this one's a fairly brief. So all of those have been prepared and reviewed by the city and ready to submit to Caltrans. So once all of those documents have been reviewed by Caltrans, then will be considered to have been cleared for NEPA, which is the national, like the federal level environmental process. Then we'll go through CEQA clearance for the California process. Once that's all been done, then we can get back to the design stage and develop the design. And as we're developing the design and finalizing it all, then we can work through the permit process to get permits to actually work in the creek.
Do you have a timeline on that at all?
We do, and there is a slide coming up about the timeline.
Okay.
I think I see a hand up, Charles.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that some of this is sequential instead of concurrent, that you have to do the cultural before the biology. Does that make any sense?
Well, in terms of the environmental process, those can be concurrent. The main sequence is we do the preliminary design first, then we get environmental clearance, and once it's cleared, then we can proceed with the final design stage. Some of the reports and some of the environmental aspects do have a sequence where, for example, we have to do the XP1 proposal and then the XP1 investigation and then the overall summary of the historic property survey report.
Because I'm asking why isn't the biology, for example, being sent to Caltrans now? I got the impression from when you were talking about it that you are waiting for something from Caltrans in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, so what's happened is we've submitted the 35% design and the type selection report, and the staff so that goes through an engineering review, but it also goes through an environmental review. And so we've been in contact with the environmental staff at Caltrans, and they've said, okay, hold on to your reports. We'll ask for them when we've got through the first part of our review of the engineering studies. And so, that should be just in the next few weeks, they'll be requesting those documents.
Jerry, you had a question?
Yeah, the point is, in order to understand as we go along, how long do you think this will take approximately?
Yeah, so the environmental clearance, I'll have to pull up a schedule to confirm that, but it is quite a lengthy process. I think Yeah, I will open up my overall schedule and give you a better answer
Yeah.
on that.
Just to add the background is, we are looking at both because of the funding that comes from the state and the federal. We have to go through both CEQA and NEPA process.
Yeah.
Doug probably could enlighten us a little bit on his experience with having both documents done for a project, but it is a lengthy process, and we have to go through all this different types of cultural, biological, water quality, etc., in order to get both NEPA and CEQA certification.
The
Well,
short answer.
I'm just trying to get a feel. I mean,
Yeah, but I think Mr. Richardson said he's going to address those things a little bit later.
all right.
That's
I
right.
think one thing to remember here is, this is Doug Garrison. Normally, if this was sort of a standalone project and we weren't going through Caltrans, we wouldn't be doing the NEPA process. We wouldn't be doing the Caltrans. They have their own very rigid set of steps to go through. We would just seek what we would do, the archaeological, the biological, visual resource studies, prepare a CEQA environmental evaluation and go to hearing. We're really kind of stuck in Caltrans land is the short answer. They have very rigid protocols for how things proceed. And until we get through there, other things are just on hold.
Okay.
So we had the option in the beginning, when we started this, looking at this bridge, we had the option of just using the, try to use city funding and just do some minor strengthening and modification to the bridge. Then the city would have had to pay for a complete 100% of the project. But because we had applied through the bridge rehab program that the state has through the federal funding, they, at the time, the split was 88.53% they would pay. The city would only pay 11.47%, less than 12% of the total cost. So that was very attractive to us, especially that if you just strengthen the bridge, I know some people wanted to just strengthen minimal, amount for the bridge. That would maybe take it another 10 years, maybe another 20 years. What we're doing now is we're proposing to strengthen and putting a whole new foundation for the bridge, and then put a brand new deck over the existing arch that would take the load off completely off the arch. So the arch will be there as a historic element, but we basically would have a brand new bridge that could last over 100 years. Otherwise, if you just strengthen the bridge minimally, you never know when the next earthquake comes in. If somebody, God forbid, somebody gets hurt, the bridge collapses, etc. So I think this is, in infrastructure wise, this is a lengthy process, but in the long term, I think it's going to be to the advantage of the city. And that's how the city council directed us to proceed in this manner.
Okay.
No, I think that's a great idea. It really assumes that the existing arch itself is not going to be supporting anything.
Correct. We're gonna show you how we're actually going to.
Yeah, no, I understood from the last time, and so I just wanted to make sure that was it. That the arch stays there, but it's not really doing anything.
We'll clean it up.
It's right. It's cleaned up, but it's not really supporting anything. Okay,
it's
great.
supporting its own weight, which is pretty pretty heavy. Just concrete.
Yeah.
A lot of concrete in there, and its own weight is quite a heavy load to take. So that's all it's supporting. You're correct, Jerry.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
I was wondering if you would refresh my memory what the original budget, for the bridge was when we started this committee, as well as what the city's contribution is, and then today, where we stand budget-wise, both in total cost as well as city's contribution to that?
Absolutely. We have a slide. We're going to get to it. We have a slide on the budget and we also have a slide on the timing. It's just a few more slides just to go into the nitty gritty of how we're planning to construct the bridge and how it's going to look like, and then we move over to the budget area. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll go off till I see that. Thank you.
You were
Okay,
breaking up, Steve.
Are we back to Mr. Richardson now?
Now, I'm going to continue on. I think we're done with this slide. Unless there's any questions, we can move on and go to the next slide here.
Yeah, so just one thing, Ray, to confirm the schedule, we have something like 6 to 8 months before we're expecting to get the environmental clearance. So it'll be
Great.
middle of next year.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So we have some visual stimulations. These are aerial view. We are looking at the bridge looking north towards the Stone Pine and the Coffee area. On the left is what it looks like currently. On the right, as you see, is the new bridge. This is the new deck. We got the new barriers on both sides and the new sidewalks on each side. We have the street lights and a crosswalk on the south side. This crosswalk would have lots and it would be slightly raised so people would slow down and provide a little more safety for the pedestrians. The bicyclists would still be using either the sidewalk, they use the sidewalk currently, or they'll be using the roadway itself, and they'll be sharing the road. And we will add sharrows to the roadway to make sure that it's as safe as possible. This is the before and after, again, looking north from the south side, and I'm looking south from the north side. On the left, you will see this AT&T electric box that we were looking at before, and this has been removed currently. And you will see the barriers. These are the new barriers, and these are the crash cushions that are required by a Caltrans standard. So every barrier at each end should have the crash cushion. So in case a vehicle kind of veers towards the barrier, it doesn't crash into the nose of the barrier and get damaged. So this will basically prevent that from happening. You will see the sidewalks. The sidewalks have the treatment that looks a little bit like the previous wood, and the steel barriers that now will be replacing the wood barriers on the sidewalk are also MASH compliant, and they're pretty heavy duty and costly. But because they extend past the vehicle barriers, they still require to comply with the MASH requirement. So both the barrier, the concrete looking barrier and the steel barrier are MASH compliant. And these are one of the requirements that came along with the Caltrans and use of federal funding. We went back and forth for many, many months with Caltrans to make sure that what we create would comply with their requirements. And that's what we came up with. And we believe that that's going to be acceptable.
I have one question on the bridge is maybe 60 feet. It's coming down 30 feet from a slope at the center, and you have a crosswalk at the end. It just seemed that.
Oh, the previous one?
Yeah.
In this location?
Right, yeah, the crosswalk. In other words, my feeling was that the bridge is coming down and the cars are coming at a pretty good speed. I wasn't so sure about the crosswalk being there, that's all. It's coming down 30 feet off the top of the bridge, and
I'm sorry, what, 30 feet from the center?
Right.
Okay.
The bridge is 60 feet, so it's 30 feet at the center, and you're coming down to a crosswalk. I don't know about the crosswalk, but
we were also talking about rapid flashing beacons at that location, I thought, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's going to be additional warning devices as well, and
oh, good.
So yeah, it's that's not shown on there, right?
And we discussed that quite a bit at the last meeting, as I recall.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that seems to, I don't know. Yeah, that seems that, what kind of devices are you putting in?
The rapid flashing beacon, you mean?
Yeah, what kind of, are there special devices that are going in there?
We're looking at several different options. There are some newer products out there. So between Moz and I and Anthony will come up with some ideas for you guys to look at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
We're also doing a small project on Kelly at a couple of the intersections, and we're going to be doing rapid flashing beacons as part of that project. So we will be having more information out to the community on that project. That might be a good one as a test case for the type of device that we look to use for this one as well.
But we will go ahead and change this, kind of modify the visual stimulation to add those features for rapid flashing beacons, as well as add the sharrows on the actual pavement, because the bicycles will be sharing the roadway with the vehicles.
Yeah, good.
So at the next meeting, we will update this visual simulation to make it more safe for pedestrians and bicyclists. Anthony, did you have something?
And actually, Ray, I apologize. I thought I had updated this image. I do have some updated images. Did you want me to share my screen briefly and I can show you those updates?
We could include it at the next meeting, Anthony.
Okay.
With the update.
Yeah.
I know we had discussed that, but we will include it at the next meeting, and we have some more time to look at it and make sure that those are the latest that we want to include.
Okay. And we'd also talked about putting a couple of little marker bollards at the center of the road at the crossing. So just some little PVC
at the center to kind of slow the vehicles and make sure that they understand that there is a crosswalk here. So we will have the beacons here as well. This is just from the side of the bridge. As you see, the arch still there. It's a little bit cleaned up, and probably some of the vegetation. And then we will also have this scour protection, especially on the north side, because if you could see here, both on the north and south side, we want to make sure that the scour protection is in place, so the bridge would be intact even in a big rainstorm. We will not have any problems. The next item we wanted to discuss with you guys was the construction staging, and we start with the detour before we look at how we're actually going to build this bridge. The main idea was we don't want to close down the bridge during construction, so we want to have at least one lane open. So we're going to build one side and then move the traffic to the other side and build the other side. So during this period, we were proposing that we would only have one lane and that would be open. That's coming from Highway 92, Main Street, and coming in through the bridge. The northbound traffic, it would be rerouted to Kelly, to Cabrillo Highway, Highway 1, and then back to 92. So this is the current plan that we have for detour. Obviously, you know, it would involve having a changeable message sign to let them know that northbound, the bridge you cannot go through. We will accommodate the pedestrian to go both ways, but for the vehicles, we have to reroute them on the northbound and send them over either to Kelly to Highway 1 or from Mill to Church back to Kelly and then to Highway 1 to access to 92 and go north.
How long a period of time do you think this situation will be necessary?
That's a very good question. Before we go to the next slide and then answer your question on that one, because of this, you know, different sides construction and how many stages we will have, I just want to tell you also one more thing, that if you see some of the places, especially on Highway 1, where they have construction going on and one lane open, they have temporary signals. And we actually looked at a temporary signal to provide two-way traffic, but with stopping one side and then looking at the other side and back and forth. But the problem would be, we thought, especially during the weekend, we don't have much of a queue area here. So if you put a signal and stop the traffic every minute or so, you will have the queue on weekends go on 92 and it would impact the operation. That's why we decided to just have a one-way coming to town and leaving town, send them back to Highway 1. But to answer your question, Katie, we're going to look at what kind of a construction staging we will have and how many stages we will have with this one lane traffic. So the first stage is the pile installation, and that's roughly 8 piles. And you will see these are the location of the drilling rig that we have to put at different parts of the bridge. So we're going to install 8 new piles for the foundation to be supported on, and these piles will go down. How deep are the piles, Anthony?
I think they're about 60 feet deep.
They're 60 feet deep. They have to go into the bedrock. That's why we have to go so deep. And they're both sides of the bridge, both on the east south side and on the north side of the bridge. And this is what they're going to look like. And this is going to be drilled in place, reinforced concrete piles. And this is the drill rig and the placement of the pile as shown in the sample picture on the left side. And this is the actual location of where these piles are going to go. If you see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 on each side of the bridge.
Okay.
And on each side, the abutments then will be constructed on top of these piles. This is a stage 2. On stage 2, you're looking at towards the north. You see, this is the west side of the bridge. You will see the west side will be constructed first as part of stage 2. So the east side of the bridge would be open to traffic, be stage 2. So they will pour this portion of the bridge and then connect it to the abutments over the 4 piles on each side of the bridge.
Okay.
Next would be stage 3, which would be building the east side of the bridge and moving the traffic onto the west side of the bridge. And you will see the east side and the west side are not connected to each other. They are separate. They'll be poured separate, and there's a space in between them. And that space will be poured as part of stage 4, which you will pour this, the middle part. So Anthony, on stage 1, 2, and 3, obviously we can only accommodate 1 lane of traffic. And on stage 4, we still have 1 lane of traffic that we're showing, correct, Anthony?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Stage 4 is relatively quick.
Okay.
So that might be, say, a month.
Right.
There's not enough space for temporary 2 traffic lanes plus pedestrians. That's
Right.
the challenge.
And then stage 5 is the bridge itself, where the traffic lanes have been completed, the east side, the west side, and the middle section. Now we're going to come back in and complete the barriers. We're going to complete the sidewalk, which is raised over the poured concrete deck, and the barriers outside of the sidewalk. So this is the roadway barrier, and this is the sidewalk barrier. And these are both heavy-duty barriers. One is all concrete, and the other one for pedestrians is all steel to match up the existing look.
Mhm.
So the question that Katie had, Anthony, is regarding the timing for the 1 lane traffic. Because we're bound by requirement, both state and federal requirements in terms of the time of year we actually do the construction, and we could access the riverbed. So that is one of our constraints that we have. We're looking at Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, approximately 18 months, a year and a half, or would that be shorter or longer?
Yeah, so I think about 18 months. The restriction we have is we can't do any work within the full channel width, so both the water and the channel banks. We can't work there between October the 15th and April the 15th. And so there could well be quite a shutdown of construction where there's no progress for something like 3 or 4 months during the first winter.
And the formwork that we have to do for the concrete, because we have to access the creek bed for the abutments, for the foundation, etc. and placing the formwork. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. So there's a lot of temporary construction equipment in the channel. So what the contractor will do in as soon as they start is put in a temporary dam at upstream and downstream of the construction site, so then they can work in the creek without disturbing without affecting the water quality. And there will be
a temporary dam. Still, we would have a small waterway that takes the waterway upstream to downstream, but we'd be able to work on the river itself without impacting the water quality, but the water will still be able to flow.
Okay.
That's right, and both the water and the fish, especially there's endangered fish species in the Velocitos Creek, so they will be able to pass through that pipe as well.
So this is just a project schedule. Of course, this depends on the approvals by the Caltrans and the Federal Highway Administration of both the environmental and for the design, as well as the start of the construction. Just to explain what exactly we're in regards to the approval, the state has approved and allocated funding for us through the Federal Highway Administration through the end of design. So they're giving us approximately $1 million. Actually, it's 1.2 million roughly for the design of the project and environmental clearance. And out of that, the city is paying about $1 million, and the rest of it, I'm sorry, the city's paying about $100,000, about 11.47%, and the feds are paying about 88.53%. So they're paying about $1 million, we're paying about 100,000 or so. After that, for the construction, once we get the environmental approved and we get the preliminary design approved, we go into the final design, then we will work with the state and the federal government to allocate the funding in the programming vessel that says what year and what type of funding would be available and how much. So right now we're looking at once we have the environmental approved and the design under control, that we will approach the state to program the funding through the FHWA funds. Of course, the program funding is going through some changes and that might be impacted by the infrastructure bill, but we're looking at starting the construction hopefully in 2024 and approximately for 2 years until we finish construction. So we're looking at environmental clearance next year, hopefully by next summer. We start the 65% design. We go back and forth with Caltrans and FHWA for their review. Once they approve it, we do the 95% design and we prepare the final plan specifications. We would try to allocate funding through the feds and get the final permits to be in the river, the 401 and the 404 permit. Once that's squared away, then we can go ahead and advertise and award the construction project and hopefully finish within 1.5 to 2 years through the stage construction. Again, 5 stages total. And then right now, we had to upgrade the estimate. The original estimate was about 20% lower because of the inclusion of the MASH approved barriers, both for the vehicles and pedestrians coming outside, both the metal, the steel one, and as well as the concrete one, as well as the fact that we're actually building a new bridge over the existing arch with a new foundation and new abutments and reinforcing the wing walls. We're looking at approximate construction contract of about $10 million. Total project cost of about $13 million, including design, construction, inspection, testing, etc. That is the current estimate, and we hope that that the feds and the state would allocate this funding for us in 2024 so we can go ahead and start the construction.
Refresh my memory, what the budget was when we started this?
I'm sorry, Steve, I have a hard time hearing.
What was the budget, the original budget when we started this?
The original budget was 1.2 million design and environmental clearance, which we're still at that budget. Construction was about 8 million.
So we went from around 8 million to almost 14 million?
No, we went from 8 million to 10 million. Original budget, the total budget, the original was about a little over $9 million. Now we're going to almost 13 million.
And how much of that was originally the city's contribution, and how much is the city's contribution now?
Okay, so originally the city's contribution was 11.47% of the total, which meant around roughly, I would say about $1.1 million total for the city, and the balance was for the FHWA / the state. Now, for the design, the 1.2, we already have an agreement with them, and it's still the same. It's the city's portion is about $100 and some thousand, and about $1 million for the state, based on the 88.5% versus 11.5% for the city. For the construction, we are waiting for instructions from state and FHWA of what the program for the bridge rehab is going to look like with the new budget, and what the percentage is going to be. Is that going to be the same percentage? It used to be 11.47% for the city, and the city's portion was about roughly about $1 million. Now, if the percentage don't change, the city's portion would be about
1.57.
1.7 million.
1.57.
1.57 million.
And that's what we're hoping, is that the percentages do not change. Obviously.
Of course.
Thank you, Maz.
So I had one question. In other words, is the existing structure is really just for show, or the idea is it's just there to be looked at? Are you going to have a way to get down there to look at it, or I'm a little confused?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jerry.
I mean, right now, we started out originally where we were going to modify the existing bridge. We've now given that up. And what we're doing is we're putting a new bridge in over it. So the existing bridge is, as you say, it's just a lot of concrete. It's just supporting itself, but it's not doing anything. But is it going to be visual? Can you go down and take a look at it, or I don't quite understand.
Jerry, do you mean for safety purposes or for
Visual. I
historical?
believe Jerry wants to talk about visual. So
yeah, the reason is that I think Dave Crescent brought up that the idea was there was some way to be able to go down and take a look at the old bridge to see what it looked like. So it's a way, it's not bad. It's a way to go down and take a look and see what it looked like. And I think Moss suggested early on there was some way there was going to be a twist or a turn. You could go down and take a look at it. Is that gone now? Or?
So Jerry, one of the things that we're doing, that because of the access, we will be cleaning up some of the vegetation and replanting with some new trees and plants. So if you look at from the north side, this is looking at from where the coffee place is. So all this vegetation here probably will be replaced with smaller trees and smaller plants here. So you will be able to see more of the bridge because of this turn from this direction, as well as you will be able to see from here. You see there's seeding here for and some of these plants, we're going to be trimming some of these plants. Some of these vegetations will be taken out and replaced. So the bridge would be more visible. But if you're asking whether we're going to have a viewing area, for example, here, this is going to be where our access would be down. to the stream bed in order to construct all the improvements we showed you under. So this area would be completely cleared up, and this is the main access. If you know the food stand area here, that's going to be our access down below. So this area would actually look much different than what it looks now. And we had looked at several options in order to kind of put a viewing area to better see the bridge. But at the moment, we don't have anything included as like a lookout point or a viewing area. We were hoping that we can actually use from this corner here on the southeast, if we could put some panels to show some of the old pictures of the bridge, what it looked before, back 100 years ago, and kind of have them see the historic aspect of the bridge with some maybe write-ups of what the bridge was, the first bridge in the county that was concrete. This is what it looks like. It wasn't paved, it didn't have pedestrian sidewalks on each side, and some of the pictures that you saw on the original could be included, in that, panel that would provide at least something that people would be relating to the history of the bridge and how we try to preserve it. And this is what we have come up with as as an improved bridge, but still have the historic aspect of it shown. So we are looking at that right now. And if you guys have any suggestions of how to improve that and make sure the public could see and understand what the bridge was about, we would like to get that feedback from you.
Yeah, I think that's a tough issue. It'd be nice if there was a way to be able to show what all this construction is for, but yeah, it looks like it's just gonna kind of disappear. But and again, I don't really, I don't know. It's almost a shame of why didn't we just take it out and and start with a new bridge to begin with? But okay, the other part of this is, wasn't the planning commission going to take a look at this? Have they looked at it yet, or?
And Doug could expand on that one. We're going to the planning commission. We're going to get a CDP on this, Doug.
Oh, you'll definitely be getting a CDP.
Environmental.
There will be, I think once we get Caltrans sorted out, we'll be going to the planning commission probably more than once. I probably once we get the CEQA document going, we'll probably have a meeting at the planning commission to get input on environmental review, as well as just the project scope, what's proposed, some of the history on it. So there will be probably multiple planning commission meetings before it actually gets to a hearing for the permit.
Okay, I just, they had some questions on the sidewalks, but I think, it looks like it's going in a little bit unusual direction, but it looks okay. It looks like you're really, the concept of driving piles for the old bridge, I guess, is gone. You're not going to drive piles for nothing. So I don't think you're going to be driving piles on either side of the bridge. And you're going to do something with the wing walls, but I don't know how much or why. It looks like a different situation. It looks fine, but I don't quite understand why it was totally given up, but that's beside the point. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so actually, I think we are still proposing the 4 piles to for the original bridge, for the existing bridge.
Oh, okay.
And those are the inner piles. of the 8 piles, the innermost 4 that are in the lower down in the creek are for
1,
the
2, 3, 4, these 2 and these 2.
That's right. Yeah, and those are to help protect the bridge in case of a significant earthquake that
To
could.
protect the historic bridge.
That's right.
Okay, so, and you had mentioned the last meeting that the bridge, something could move. I didn't quite follow that. The existing bridge, if it moved, will it hit any of the piers that are going down for the new bridge, or what? How'd you provide for that?
So during the earthquake, the movement of the historic bridge against I mean, they're all connected with the abutments.
Oh, okay.
That's right. And at the top of the existing bridge, we'll be tying that into the underside of the new structure. So the new structure will be also helping to restrain the existing bridge during an earthquake. So we are trying to protect the existing bridge in an earthquake.
Okay, and the new bridge, how are you protecting it seismically for itself? I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't it move? Doesn't it? If it moves, how does it affect the old bridge? I don't quite get that, but okay.
These are the new bridge is going to be post tension and tied to the abutments that are connected to the new drilled piers. So the new bridge itself is all one element post tension with the steel. So it's tied. It's not going to go anywhere during the earthquake.
Okay, but so what?
Go ahead.
So the old bridge itself can move, but the new bridge can't move. I don't get it.
The old bridge, well, the seismic impacts the basically the mass of the bridge, both the old bridge and the new bridge, and both of them are actually designed so that they withstand the significant seismic force. And the way that they're connected, tied in together, as well as to the abutments and the new foundation, they work in harmony with each other. And they've been looked at for lateral movement in any direction, plus the vertical movement during an earthquake.
Okay. Okay.
So it's been analyzed. They've been analyzed to all work together. So the new bridge and the old bridge. The only thing that we don't know is the interior of the old bridge, that how much impact it would have in terms of, because we're not really putting any new rebars or any reinforcements inside the old bridge. We're accounting for its mass, we're accounting for its movement, but we're not sure whether it's going to develop cracks during the earthquake. Whatever it does is not going to be impacting the new bridge. It will basically be by itself, but we're trying to protect it as much as possible. But there's so far you can do with an old concrete structure that doesn't have any reinforcement in it.
Who did that analysis?
Biggs Cardosa, they're bridge experts. I personally have been working with Biggs Cardosa for 33 years, and they have done many bridges in the Bay Area. And a lot of bridges in all the counties in the Bay Area is done by Biggs Cardosa Associates. They're prominent bridge designers. They do a structural analysis, they do dynamic analysis, they do finite element analysis, and make sure that the bridges conform to the requirements, both state and federal requirements.
Yeah, I mean, that's true with the Millennium Tower. You know,
They didn't design the Millennium Tower, correct, Anthony?
Correct, yes.
They probably should have. Anyway, yeah, it looks, it just, for me, it's a change in what we were originally looking at. And I noticed that last time, and I guess it's fine. I mean, I don't know. It's, yeah, it's a shame that you can't at least show something about the old bridge. I mean, it's not supporting anything. It has nothing to do with the new bridge. Yeah, it looks like, you know, you got a new plan, and it looks good. I guess, you know, it's just,
I
there's
mean,
no way.
visibly, Jerry, you don't know which, you know, when you drive on it or when you look at it from the side, it's not two different bridges. The old bridge and the new bridge are one bridge, basically. There is no separation between them. And they are cohesive and they will look and act as one bridge. So.
But the new bridge is actually connected to the old bridge, to the old bridge?
Yeah, so there will be a connection, but there'll also be a joint. So the two can move independently. And we will detail, we have some preliminary details for a connection that will allow some movement, but some restraint as well.
Okay, so yeah,
But visually, it'd be one bridge. There's no.
yeah, well, you can say that, but I mean, it's like there's a bridge on Highway 280. It has these fantastic sculptured piers that no one ever sees. I mean, you drive over this bridge and you never see the fabulous piers below. And it's the same thing here. You'll never see what the old bridge looks like. But I guess if that appears to be acceptable, that appears to be acceptable.
Charles, did you have a question?
Yeah, and it's directly related to the point that Jerry's making. I want to make sure that we're in compliance with the referendum that passed, that set this thing in motion. So I'm wondering if either at this meeting or through email afterwards, we can look at that wording because it was, the history of this process was that originally the city was going to replace the bridge, and there was, people were up in arms, and a referendum was passed that said, no, we can't replace it, we're going to repair it. So it depends on what the wording is, because here we're neither replacing it nor repairing it, it seems like.
Well, the foundation is one of the most important part of a bridge, and we are repairing the foundation and the abutments and the wing walls.
Okay, so that's important. That's important. That part hasn't been coming out in this conversation. So to that extent, we are repairing the old bridge, but also putting a superstructure on top of it.
Correct.
But I would like to make sure that we're doing our jobs. I'd like to, if we could look at the wording and just feel better that we're still in compliance.
I agree.
Good point.
Through the chair, we can certainly distribute that information after the meeting.
We will put that in the meeting notes.
Thank you.
As well. Make sure that we bring it to you next time, and make sure that we note that.
Well, the attorney, I mean, should be able to look at it and make a decision. I assume. Yeah, it's just. It seems like we're kind of going over the old bridge and putting a new bridge in on top of it. And I assumed that last time, but I didn't quite fully get what you were doing. But I think what was just said is a good point, that we should just assume that we're doing the right thing. That's all.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for that report. It's pretty thorough. So I think from you, we are going to get, as Charles requested, the language of the referendum, so that we understand that we are complying with the public's desire, and also what the definition of an historic bridge actually means to the federal government, because if we violate that, they may not fund our bridge reconstruction.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the old bridge and putting a new bridge in, and we're trying to make it look the same. I think you need to have someone look that over and just make sure that that's okay.
Yeah, if you would send us those things, I would very much appreciate it.
We will do that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Does anybody have any further comments or questions?
Yes, I do. You know, this process, I mean, the elephant in the room, I think, is just how long this is taking. I don't think anyone anticipated when the referendum got passed that it would be more than 2 or 3 years before something happened. And now we're looking, I mean, the timeline doesn't even dare to go out that far. We're talking 2026, which is, you know, probably 5 years since the referendum passed and another 5 years from today. And in the meantime, we've got a crappy looking bridge. And it's not getting any better between now and 5 years. So I think there should be some interim cosmetic work done to dress that old doll up a little bit. I mean, the peeling masonry on the bridge, I think the sidewalk's probably dangerous. The wood's rotting. Does that make sense? Is that in the scope of this committee, or is this would that be a separate project with the city to do something in the meantime?
If I may, through the chair, I know that our public works staff, our maintenance crew does go out there and maintain the bridge, at least with the spackle and painting. And they do go and check the wood decking for any major trip hazards or major issues. So we do have eyes on it to ensure that that it is still safe. But I agree with you on the face. I think the problem is the plaster at this point is just not holding to the structure anymore. Although we try to patch it up, it does come off pretty quickly. So, but I can run that by our maintenance folks again and see if they can put that on their list. It is part of our normal operations.
Thank you.
Is anybody interested in updating the public about this? About what the timeline for it? I've been asked several times by other people who live here, whatever happened to the bridge repair. Nothing's been in the paper. The city council hasn't talked about it at the city council meetings. What is anybody else's thoughts on that?
Want to review, look at the transcript of this meeting and do a little report? Have they been in contact with you?
And, well, not with me, but anybody from planning or from Public Works? Is anybody from the press been in touch with you? Is that your question, Charles?
Exactly.
No, nobody's reached out to Public Works staff yet from the media side, but we can certainly do do a brief informational item to put this information out there. We can put something together and do either an e-news, and also we can talk to our city council and see if it's appropriate to do an update. I think you're right. It's time that we start talking about this a little bit more and bring it back to the forefront, so folks know that we are moving forward on it. Although it's been a slow process up to this point, we can certainly look at doing that.
All right. Is that something you want the board to do, the advisory board to do? Talk to the city council and see if it's okay, or I don't know how that process works actually.
So you can certainly reach out to your council members. From the staff perspective, we'll bring it up to Bob Nisbet, our city manager, and he will talk to the city council members during the his normal meetings with them to figure out the timing and when would be the most appropriate.
Okay.
So we can go that route, but I mean, you obviously can reach out to your council members as well as individuals.
Whoever is going to prepare the next agenda, I'd appreciate it if that was on that agenda, a report on what has happened, because I think we owe it to the people of Half Moon Bay to let them know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and I think in the note that goes out, we should say that we're putting a new bridge over the old bridge, and we're not really using the old bridge, and make that point, and then see if anybody says anything.
Is there a feeling from the engineering side that the new design on this bridge is a safer and longer living bridge?
We looked at many different options, and Anthony could expand on that a little bit more. We looked at option of how do we strengthen the existing historic bridge. We went back and forth. What is the best, most feasible, cost-effective, longer-term improvement that we can do to this? So I let Anthony kind of talk to you about the different alternatives we looked at, and how we came up with this proposed one.
But the thing is, the point was that, as was mentioned, that we were going to modify the bridge. I think you've taken a long step, and maybe it's a good step. I don't know, but you've made a big move, and I think it should be explained to the public what you've done, because I think there may be other reasons that people may feel that the idea was to modify the old bridge. That was the plan originally. You guys had, the engineering company had come up with a plan of how to modify the old bridge, and we've gone over that, and I say, don't know, maybe it's right, but I don't know, just not comfortable with what you're doing, that's all.
Yeah. We have gone through several iterations on this one, and that's what we have come up during the past couple of years. And we have looked at different options, and this was the most feasible option for us. Anthony, can you explain, just to refresh the memory of what the different alternatives we looked at in order to come up with this one? We always looked at the original arch.
Yeah. So there were several options. There is an alternative scheme where we would essentially remove all of the fill that's above the arch, and then we can strengthen the arch by putting new reinforced concrete over the existing arch and on the inside of the concrete walls, and then replace some of that fill. And in doing that, as we work through that analysis, that actually is more intrusive on the existing structure. So we'd be changing the structure, making more change to the existing structure. And some of that would be in some ways invisible, but it would be some of the criteria that we're trying to meet are these formal criteria presented by the Secretary of State for the Interior and their historic preservation standards. And one of the important ones is that the work should be reversible and minimize changes to the actual historic fabric. And so this method that we have, where that is our preferred alternative currently, is actually less intrusive on the existing structure. The other significant change that happened was that the new federal requirements for crash barriers changed significantly just after we started the project. And this is the introduction of the MASH standards. And so previously we had a lot of leeway in that we could prepare an engineered design for barriers where we would calculate the strength of the barriers. And that was the approach that we thought we would be taking with this. As we got into the design, these new criteria came into play where we don't have that flexibility anymore. We can only use barriers that have been crash tested and approved by Caltrans or a similar state agency. And so that actually had a huge implication on this project and many other projects. So at the time, a lot of historic bridges in California that were under this sort of project, they all ground to a halt because of these new requirements, and Caltrans and engineers and historic preservationists and so on, we didn't quite know how we could interpret these new requirements and how we could apply them to these historic bridges.
And this came out just 2 years ago, this new requirement.
That's right.
But also, wasn't there a way of taking the structures that we have right now, and you could come up with design? You'd have to design it. It may take a couple of years to get it through, but you could get it through if you did it. And see, the intent here was, we were trying to stay, this was the whole reason for the election, was that the attempt was to try to stay with the bridge. I mean, I can hear all the reasons, and they may be good reasons, but I don't know if that was the intent that we started with. And it may be true that it may be the right way to go, but I think you need to, needs to be explained. It just, I think that the barrier walls, the smash content, we could come up with a design that would look.
I'm sorry, Jerry, if I may, through the chair, I do want to just make one point, that we do have a project for this committee. We do have bylaws, and I will share that with everybody. Just, I wanted to make a point of clarification that this committee is not providing technical assistance, correct? So that's just not to say anything other than just that's the bylaws and the formation of this group. I also wanted to point out that although we are, it's been a while since we've done outreach and everything, this committee was actually formed to be a conduit of information to the community. So that's just, I just want you guys to remember what the bylaws are. I know it's been a while since we've had this conversation, and I think it's important that we share that with you guys so you know what we're trying to do. So yeah, we're having a lot of technical discussions, but I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's right. But I think that the point still needs to be made to the public of what you're doing. That's all. I think.
That happened, Jerry.
Yep.
May I
Okay.
make another comment here regarding the history of it as I'm thinking back through it? When the city first proposed tearing down the bridge and putting in a new bridge, there were several objections. One of the objections was that they were going to make it a wide bridge, a 4-lane bridge going into a 2-lane road, which was ridiculous. It was going to change completely the nature of what this old bridge looked like. And they were going to shut down, there was no way to have 1-lane traffic. They were going to have to shut down the whole road for an extended period of time, which frightened local merchants. So this new version that we're working on as of today, 2021, doesn't have 4 lanes. It's going to look exactly like the current bridge, only better. And they're not going to shut down the traffic. So I think that this, and it's going to last for 100 years. So I think this, I think where the engineers have ended up is probably a good place. And I think it almost depends on the kinds of words that you use of whether it's replacing the bridge or whatever. But I think it's a good design, and I think it meets the spirit of the objections to the design that the city had originally placed. So I just wanted to give that my own personal subjective historical perspective on this.
Okay. Doug?
If I may, I just want to add a little bit of background of what's happened over the last couple of years. And I think Anthony touched on this. There have been other designs. This wasn't all about the cost or engineering. A lot of this, we had a design. We went to Caltrans. We met with their historic resource specialists. We had some very heated discussions with them. And this is the bridge that can get through Caltrans's historic resources people. And believe me, it's not something that just sprang up off of, AutoCAD or, from an engineering perspective. The city has historic resource consultants working on this. We're working with Caltrans historic resource people. There's been a lot of hours that have gone into getting to this design. So just, I think everybody hasn't really been involved in sort of those day-to-day grinding things out with Caltrans, but believe me, it's been going on. So that's all I'm adding.
Yeah, and if I could just add, one thing we have been trying to do is really minimize the change to the existing structure. And so if we just consider the existing structure, we're removing the concrete barriers and about 18 inches of the top of the wall. And that's almost all the work we're doing on the existing structure. We're adding some supplementary foundations, we're repairing the wing walls, but the actual concrete arch that is historic and is remaining. It's also remaining. Most of the weight that the bridge carries is actually the weight of the concrete and the weight of the soil over the arch, and so all of that is remaining. And we're putting in this new structure that spans over it to carry the traffic. But in terms of preserving the bridge as a structure, we really have tried to minimize the impact and the changes to that existing historic resource.
Yeah, the new roadway that we're putting in, like Anthony says, it's not just carrying the traffic, but this huge, massive MASH compliant barriers. These four barriers that go along the bridge. These are heavy duty, and because they have to stop the weight of a truck hitting it, I mean, they have to be anchored in, and you can't anchor that to the existing historic arch. You really have to have a massive, concrete post tension, superstructure to be able to carry that load. So we really had to come up with this. I mean, this is a brilliant idea that the city and the consultants came up with. It wasn't easy to come up with this. As Doug said, we have to go back and forth, many meetings with the historic architect to see actually how could we accomplish this. It was not an easy task, and it took us a long time to convince Caltrans that this is the best design and come up with a solution that was acceptable to all. That MASH barrier was one of the huge obstacles in our design. And it wasn't that, even if you had started this bridge earlier, the thing was that about 2.5 years ago, this new requirement came out that anything going to construction had to comply with this. And as Doug and Anthony said, that all the historic bridges in California, they were all came to a halt because they could not accommodate this barrier. And it's not just a simple thing. I mean, to us, we look at it, we say, oh, okay, it's a simple thing. It's just a barrier. But it was one of the biggest challenges that we encountered that changed the whole design for this bridge, increased the cost, changed the design, had to go back and forth with the historic architect at Caltrans and come up with a design that was acceptable. We were even willing to make our own barriers and have it tested in Texas, because there's only 2 centers in the whole United States that would test any new kind of barrier that didn't comply with Caltrans standard. And the fact that we were able to get this done without, it would have cost $1 million to test a new barrier that was acceptable to them. $1 million just to test the barrier, and about 2 years to get compliance with the testing. So that was something that we avoided for this project and saved that money. And we're able to save not only the money, but the time, the 2 additional years of testing to come up with this new barrier design.
I think that's the kind of discussion that you need to put in the paper, that's all.
Yeah, we need to get the word out on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Any idea when you think we should have another meeting?
I think we're committed to, is that quarterly, Miles?
That's correct. We're looking at putting together quarterly meetings moving forward so we can keep you folks updated on progress. Hopefully we'll have good updates every quarter, but I'm sure there's going to be something to talk about at each one. I think we had, I'm sorry I was late to the meeting. I think we had the next couple of meetings established. Is that correct on the schedule?
Sure.
Not on the agenda.
Okay, so we'll look at setting up the next couple of quarterly meetings, at least the next one, and then what we can do is provide a look ahead for the next year so that we can get everything on the calendar in advance.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next meeting would probably be in January, early January, perhaps.
Not the first week, please.
No, we'll give it a buffer after the holidays. Absolutely. We
Maybe
wanna
the
make sure
second week of
everybody's
January.
available. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else anybody wants to chat about? Well, then I will. adjourn the
Wait,
meeting.
hang on.
Oh, yeah.
You got a call for public comments. I don't know if I can't see if anyone's there, but it's on the
you're
agenda.
right. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's not on the agenda.
Uh,
Is there anybody waiting?
No, just PCT and Public Works on the attendee side.
Okay,
As such, I
I
will
think
close
we're good.
public comment period then. And adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second? The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our new chair and vice chair.
Yeah,
Thank
And
you,
a
Chair and
great
Vice Chair.
presentation from staff too.
all right. I look forward to hearing from you guys.